Calvin Peete died a horrible end, battling lung cancer and hospice care at just 71 years old. But his tragic death shouldn't overshadow one of the most incredible stories in sports history. This is the story of a man who turned his greatest weakness into his most powerful strength, defying every rule about what it takes to succeed in professional golf. Calvin Peete wasn't supposed to become a golf legend. He was born into crushing poverty in Detroit, Michigan on July 18, 1943. He was the youngest of 9 children, though some accounts say he had as many as 18 siblings. When his parents separated, 9-year-old Calvin was sent to live with his grandmother in Missouri, then moved to Florida 2 years later. He ended up in Pahokee, described as one of the poorest, most beaten-down towns on the planet. At age 12, Calvin's life changed forever in the worst possible way. He fell from a cherry tree near his grandmother's house and broke his left elbow in 3 places. Without proper medical care or money to pay for it, his arm healed incorrectly. The elbow joint became permanently fused, leaving him unable to ever fully straighten his left arm. This single moment seemed to destroy any chance he might have had at athletic success. Calvin dropped out of school at 15 and became a traveling salesman. He drove up and down the East Coast in a beat-up station wagon, selling clothes, watches, and jewelry to migrant farm workers. People called him the Diamond Man because he had diamonds put into his front teeth. For years, this was his life, scraping by, barely surviving. Then, at age 23, everything changed again. In 1966, while in Rochester, New York, some colleagues invited him to what they said was a barbecue. It was actually a trick to get him to a golf course. Calvin had no interest in golf. He once said he didn't want to chase a little white ball around in the hot sun. But with no way to get home, he was given a choice: sit in a hot car or let them show him how to play golf. He chose golf and in that moment discovered his calling. What happened next shows you just how much Calvin wanted this. He became completely obsessed with golf. He returned to Florida and found driving ranges with floodlights so he could practice late into the night. He took a night job, managing apartments just so he could spend all day on the golf course. He hit balls at a small public park for hours, collecting them and hitting them again and again. Here's what makes Calvin's story so amazing. He taught himself everything. He had never even watched a golf tournament on TV. Instead, he read books like Ben Hogan's 5 Lessons and studied every word. He set up a camera to film his own swing, then spent hours comparing his form to golf greats like Ben Hogan and Jack Nicklaus. Can you imagine teaching yourself to become a professional athlete just from books and home videos? Drop a comment below and let us know what skill you think would be hardest to teach yourself, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible sports stories like this one. Within just 2 years of first picking up a golf club, Calvin became what's called a scratch golfer, meaning he could play at par level. 3 years after that barbecue trick, he turned professional in 1971. But here's where Calvin's story gets truly incredible. Remember that broken arm from childhood? The one that should have ended any athletic dreams? It turned out to be his secret weapon. In golf, the standard teaching is that you must keep your left arm straight throughout your swing. Calvin couldn't do this. His arm was permanently bent and locked in place from that childhood injury. Golf experts who studied Calvin discovered something amazing. His fused elbow actually forced his arms to stay tightly connected to his body and work together perfectly. Most golfers struggle with something called buckling, where the left arm bends at the wrong time during the swing, causing bad shots. Because Calvin's arm was already locked in a bent position, it could never buckle. His physical limitation had eliminated one of golf's biggest technical problems. The biomechanics were beautiful in their simplicity. Calvin would get the club up, then with perfect body rotation, bring it back down on the exact same path every single time. His swing was incredibly repeatable because that broken arm created a fixed point that never changed. What should have been his greatest weakness became his most powerful advantage. Calvin earned his PGA Tour card in 1975 at age 32, much later than most professionals start. His early years were a struggle, but in 1979 he won his first tournament at the Greater Milwaukee Open. Then came the 1980s, when Calvin truly dominated professional golf. Of his 12 total PGA Tour victories, 11 came in just 5 years between 1982 and 1986. During this incredible run from 1982 through 1985, Calvin believed he was probably the best golfer in the world. His prize money and 7 tournament wins during that period backed up this claim. The peak of Calvin's career came in 1985 at the Players' Championship, which he called the greatest win of his life. Going into the final round, he was tied for the lead, but didn't think he could win. That night, he woke up at 1 in the morning and had a moment of intense self-reflection. Looking in the mirror, he told himself, "When you're at your best, they can't beat you." They can't beat you. He carried this confidence onto the course and shot a brilliant, mistake-free final round of 66, winning by 3 shots. Calvin became known as Mr. Smaller. Accuracy because of his incredible ability to hit the ball exactly where he wanted. His statistics are mind-blowing and probably will never be matched. He led the PGA Tour in driving accuracy for 10 straight years from 1981 to 1990. In 1983, he set the all-time record by hitting 84.55% of fairways in a single season. To understand how incredible this is, compare Calvin's decade of dominance to today's best. In 2023, the PGA Tour leader in driving accuracy hit 71.74% of fairways. Calvin's 10-year average was about 10% better than that. His worst year was still better than today's best player. This shows how golf has changed. Modern technology and course design now favor distance over accuracy, making Calvin's skill set almost impossible to replicate today. Calvin wasn't just a great golfer. He was a pioneer who broke barriers. Before Tiger Woods turned professional in 1996, Calvin was the most successful African-American golfer in PGA Tour history. He followed in the footsteps of earlier pioneers like Charlie Sifford and Lee Elder, proving that sustained excellence was possible for black golfers in a predominantly white sport. Calvin never tried to fit the typical image of a professional golfer. He sported a Fu Manchu mustache, wore cowboy boots, and kept those diamonds in his teeth. He spoke honestly about racial issues in golf, once saying about the Masters tournament, "Until Lee Elder, the only blacks at the Masters were caddies or waiters." To ask a black man what he feels about the traditions of the Masters is like asking him how he feels about his forefathers who were slaves. This wasn't just commentary, it was powerful social criticism that connected his personal experience to America's broader racial history. Calvin won the prestigious Vardon Trophy in 1984 for having the lowest scoring average on tour. He also won the Byron Nelson Award that same year. His excellent play earned him spots on 2 U.S. Ryder Cup teams in 1983 and 1985. To be eligible for the Ryder Cup, he had to earn his high school diploma first, which he did by getting his GED. Beyond his golf achievements, Calvin was deeply committed to giving back. He founded the Calvin Peete National Minority Golf Foundation to introduce golf to inner-city youth who might not otherwise have access to the sport. He recognized that black children often couldn't access golf, and worked to change that. His community work continues today through the Calvin Peete Awards, established in 2012, which honor young golfers and humanitarians who show drive, humility, and determination. Calvin's professional career slowed down in the 1990s. He retired from the PGA Tour in 1995 and played on the Champions Tour until 2001. In his later years, he faced new challenges, battling both pancreatic and lung cancer. After a long fight, he died of lung cancer while in hospice care in Atlanta, Georgia on April 29, 2015, at age 71. Calvin Peete's life proves that conventional wisdom can be completely wrong. He found strength in what everyone saw as weakness, transforming a broken arm into an unshakable foundation for the most accurate golf swing in history. He was a champion who succeeded entirely on his own terms, forcing the golf world to accept him as he was rather than changing to meet their expectations. His journey from poverty and physical limitation to the highest levels of professional golf reminds us that talent can come from the most unexpected places. True success is often forged in the face of overwhelming challenges. Calvin didn't just overcome his circumstances, he used them as fuel for greatness. The next time you face what seems like an impossible obstacle, remember Calvin Peete. Sometimes our biggest limitations can become our greatest advantages if we're willing to see them differently. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs to hear about turning weakness into strength. Calvin's legacy lives on every time someone refuses to let circumstances define their limits.